Hello guys, Spirit here, back with this month's BFFB podcast, Best Friends Firing Bullets. It's just me today, and today I have two special guests. They're fellow spies and YouTubers that I respect as players and individuals, Mr.Paladin and Optimus Prime. Say hello guys.
G'day all.
And today's topic is going to be about Spies, and we're going to go through the quick little section pre-hand. I've still not received any emails for questions or that you guys want answered, so I'll skip that part. I have received no comments. And an update for news, there is a raffle going on right now. It's over in about a week's time. So now's your chance to get in to get a smoking catchy for being a subscriber and following the channel. And that's all for news. So we'll move on to the main topic being Spies. Now, if most of you don't know, Mr. Paladin and Optimus Prime both play Spy for their YouTube channels. And Mr. Paladin plays on pub servers mostly, and Optimus Prime does a lot of UGC and sent in demos. So they know a lot what they're doing, and I've made Spy by learning off of both of them. I've taken both aspects of them, tried mashing them together, and I ended up with my own style of Spy. So to get us started, Mr. Paladin, why don't you tell us a bit about your channel?
Well, my channel, I started out, I gotta rewind. I started playing Team Fortress way back when Team Fortress was a mod for Quake. So Quake World Team Fortress, and it was very strange to me coming back. I didn't get into Team Fortress 2 straight away because it was a paid program, and I was used to Team Fortress being a free mod. So, you know, I was one of those players who didn't start initially, and then when it became free to play, I jumped into it and picked up where I left off. But when I picked up, my learning curve was really fast, and I was seeing people make a lot of mistakes that I had learned about in previous Team Fortresses. And so I came in making my videos, trying to teach people some of the basics and some of the stuff that you probably don't see because of the way I learned how to play Spy. I played Spy when there was no cloaking. In fact, if somebody was cloaking, he was cheating. So you had to be visible all the time. You had to learn how to act. You had to work out what the enemy was going to let you get away with and stuff like that. So that's the premise of why I made the YouTube myself.
All right. And what about you, Optimus? What about your channel?
I began my channel 2 years back, and I started it because, well, I enjoyed playing the game, and I wanted to show everyone how it was done. And one of the people who inspired me was, of course, Germa. I'm sure everyone knows who Germa is. He's like a big guy now. Even though he started like a few months before me, he's like, he has a really big fan base, and I kind of look up to him. So I started off with him, and then after I submitted like one video, I started to see the views go up. So as the views went up, I started to make another video and another video, and then now I just do it for fun. Like, I wouldn't be doing it if it was a hassle. So it has to be fun before you want to do more and more. It's
pretty much the same for me. If it's not fun, it's not worth doing it.
And if you see that no one is watching, you know, even though if no one's watching and you still enjoy it, you're still going to continue doing it.
Yeah, I know I have a 50 subscriber count and low views, but I still make them. Hopefully someone will see it and catch on with it.
Yeah, it's definitely tough in the beginning.
Yeah, it's like anything you do in life, though. I mean, you do it for you, and if other people enjoy it, then what the hey, that's cool too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we'll move on to the actual main topic, Spies, since all three of us main Spy in a way. Let's start out with low-level entry Spies that are just starting out. They have stock weaponry, and they don't know what they're doing right off the start. I've seen a lot of these lately. They have a gibbous or no hat on, and they go around no disguise, and they're trying to stab people constantly. My words of advice would be, at least use your gun. You don't have to stab everyone. But the disguise kit, what one disguise would you say to use personally as a starter disguise? I personally would say maybe Pyro would be your best choice for a disguise when you're first starting out as Spy. What about you, Optimus?
Well, of course, I started out with Pyro too, but if you see a lot of Pyros on the other team, then you would want to switch to a disguise like Sniper
Yeah,
or Engineer.
Something a little less obvious. What about you, Mr. Paladin?
Yeah, again, I like starting off as Pyro only because, first of all, it'll let you know if there is an enemy Pyro because you'll kind of pick up the name and see what weapons you're holding. And second, if you're running around as their Pyro, sometimes it can get it so that they think they've got Pyro coverage when they don't.
Yeah. And starting out, usually I see them just mash the keyboard and they end up with Soldier a whole lot. And that's not really a good start, disguising as a soldier, because most people are expect you to be spamming rockets and jumping around.
Yeah, the other thing about Pyro is it's really quick to go to, pressing 4. If you have, I don't know, quick weapon switch, you can press 4 to bring up your disguise menu and then 3 to get to Pyro, so it's really quick, click.
Yeah, 4-3 there, your Pyro. Now, I know I have my keys binded, but that's my personal choice to have my keys binded for disguise. Quick disguise, don't even have to touch the disguise kit. And then, any advice you would personally give to someone just starting out as Spy, just on a personal level? For me, it would be practice and don't get angry, because when you get angry, you're not going to be able to do your work as a Spy. You have to remain calm at all times. Mr. Paladin, what advice would you give?
Yeah, Spy is one of those funny classes because the more you know about the game, the better you'll get at it. So if you're starting out and you're starting out as only Spy, I would actually say don't play Spy. Try playing some of the other classes first and then get to Spy, because you'll start to see how, like, the Engineer will want to set up his nest and what he's doing to cover himself. So it'll let you work out how to attack that nest, or if you see how a Sniper is wearing a particular loadout, you'll know how to attack him rather than backstab him. Maybe you need to shoot him from a distance because he's not going to be able to react to where you are. Stuff like that. If you're just jumping straight into Spy, though, you've got to learn to calm down. Like what you're saying, it's not a class that you can just spam your weapons and you'll splash an area. You're very precise. The backstab has to hit in a particular way. Your pistol fires at a particular rate, and some of the pistols won't allow you to spam them for best effect. So slow yourself down, look at what's going on, and then react.
What about you, Optimus? What words would you give?
Don't be afraid of trying new wacky things. Like, of course, face stabs are a big problem in TF2 right now because of the hit registration. But if you practice enough and, don't be afraid just to charge in, and let's say there's like 2 pyros next to a sentry, you're gonna try to kill at least 1 or 2. I mean, Spy is a dying class. You do your job and then you die. Unless it's like a pub, but for UGC and competitive, your main job is to just get a pick and then die. If you get 2 stabs, that's amazing. So don't be afraid to try new things.
Yeah, and I've written my own little personal guide that I'll put a link to the description too, and it describes that Spy is not your best class to start with. You should try the other classes. And then there's 3 main classes that make up the Spy: the Sniper, the Scout, and the Pyro, because they're ambush, headshot, long range, and hiding and getting around for your picks, which is basically what the Spy does. And to me, those are what the 3 classes equal up to on a Spy, because they have the mindset towards a Spy. But then you got the ones who play differently, so the mindset's not fully there. But when it comes to starting out, like Ace's Gamer said, start with the soldier and learn the controls of the game. He's the most balanced class there is. And with Spy, there's a big learning curve. Like, if you go watch Mr. Paladin's video, he made a video just acting, just to blend in. He didn't stab people unless it was necessary, and even then, he was able to blend in. And with you, Optimus, I've watched your videos with your Cloak and Dagger on UGC, your Dead Ringer. You change up your watches to confuse your enemies, which is respectable, and I do that too myself. It's a good tactic. But then comes down to the new Spies who get the Your Eternal Reward as their first weapon unlock for achievements. I see so many of them, and they confuse me so much. Not out of frustration, but wondering why they're taking that weapon. I know it's good for the whole Fez set, but
Well,
just makes me wonder.
I have a lot of fun with that Fez set. As a matter of fact, that was actually my first knife too. I started off with Spy 2, but as like a personal personality of mine, I'm a really sneaky type of person, so I never really had a problem with fail stabs from the beginning. So with the Your Eternal Reward, I would always get stab after stab, so I never had a problem with disguises. So I guess it has to do with your personality too. If you want to start off as a spy, you have to think to yourself, do you deceive your friends in real life or not? Because if you could do that, you can probably like trick the people on an online game.
Yeah, I mean, Mr. Paladin has seen my gameplay as Spy before, playing on his server. He knows that I get in behind his lines, take out his teleports, and annoy the crap out of his players on his team. And he knows that if I'm doing that, he's probably going to have to be the one to come and stop me.
Yeah, I've had several games where people in my Steam community group will play, and I know I'm not getting stabbed because I'm able to see folks, or they see me checking, so they leave me alone. But I'll look at the scoreboard every now and then, and like if they're using the Your Eternal Reward, the kill feed doesn't show. So the only way I know an enemy spy's doing well is they're right up there on the scoreboard, and I'm like, guys, come on, you're letting him get away with way too much. So oftentimes I'll have to go into spy hunting mode just because a team can't see it.
Yeah, and I've been on that business end of your flamethrower before, but I've also been the one to get a few trick stabs on you with being drop stabs or just getting in with your crowd. They don't notice it, and then I stab you because I know you're a bigger threat. Then I pull out my dead ringer and come back and get them.
Oh, absolutely. I've had lots of people in the Steam community group, or even people who have joined games when I've announced them, and they'll get a trick stab on me. And I always tell people, and I will tell anyone listening, the first one's always free. After you get me with the first one, I become more aware that you have the skill set able to do it, so I turn that switch on and I look for it a bit more. There's only been a few players in the community group who have done it multiple times to me, and I actually have one video. I think there was a guy called Bob, and he kept getting me over and over, and it was like, but he was doing it very well. He was staying out of sight, and he was getting those stabs in on me, and it was very well done.
Yeah, I've seen that video. It was very well done, and I've seen many people just fall for the simplest of trick stabs, being a corner stab. And I've seen you do them to people too with your reverse corner stab on the staircase in Badwater.
Yeah, I've been wanting to get a better video of that, but if somebody completely believes that you're disguised, you can go ahead of them up the stairs and then kind of stop in the corner of the stairway and keep looking up, and in their excitement they'll rush past you and just present their back to you.
Yep.
So it's not really a trick stab, but you know, you've got them believing and you're anticipating where they're going to be.
Yeah, it's pure deceit. I've managed to pull that myself. I go up disguised as Pyro, and I know my engineer has a mini sentry set up there, and I act like, oh, I don't want to go near it, I'm going to be shot down. Someone bigger comes up to take it down, and I just poke them in the back and they're gone. It's a nice little area to make stabs in. But when it comes to the Eternal Reward, I've watched videos of you, and you do extremely well with it, but that's usually because your team is causing a big distraction.
Oh yeah, every time I have a good, in fact, just about any good spy video I have, you'll notice that the team has set a defense somewhere, and they're being a big enough of a threat that the enemy team is thinking less about spy and thinking more about how are they going to even move the payload. So if that can happen, if there can be a defensive line set somewhere, I can play in behind it.
Yeah, and I've seen Optimus's UGC videos, and he always makes his moves when his team calls it. And I've tried this in lobbies. Lobbies, it doesn't work as well because no one seems to communicate as much.
Yeah, with a team is different because on a team you all have mics, but lobbies are like Highlander but in pub style because not everyone has mics. Some of them type it out, so even like 1 second will make a big difference because like if you call out to push and then they're not ready, you don't even know if your entire team is ready in a lobby because some of them are dead and they don't call it. Some of them get stabbed and they don't call it. So calling is very important in these 9v9 situations.
Yeah, when it comes down to it, it's a lot harder come UGC for a spy. But at the same time, it's a bit easier because you don't have 3 pyros running around M1 trying to find you.
But it's kind of like you're up against 9 eyes because if one person spots you, they all know you're there. So you have to, yeah.
And they'll send about 2 to come get you.
Yeah, 2. Yeah,
usually
it depends
the
what
scout.
class. Yeah,
scout or pyro.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're the best spy hunting class. But when it comes to it, I have to say I love my stock knife versus any gimmicky knife. The kunai is good. It is good, but it has its places. It's not good for UGC unless their whole team is complete idiots. You're not going to get away with the kunai in UGC very well.
Well, the whole thing is that the extra health doesn't do you much when everybody is 100% accurate and suddenly turns around to face you. So.
Yeah. In a pub server, you can go on to town in a chain stab, and by the end of it, you could still have that 180 health boost.
Yeah.
And that sort of moves on to the next part of it, is once you've gotten the hang of playing spy, disguising, blending in, then comes in the trick stabs. Now these stabs are what people think are, oh, you're face stabbing, you're hacking, you're doing something. Now what I normally see is when I kill a new spy by doing a matador or a corner stab to him, he usually thinks I'm hacking. And he asks where I got the hacks, and I'm like, it's not hacking, it's practice. These are special stabs and require precise timing and accuracy on them. Now, personally, my favorite stab is the side stab because, well, it's the basis of all stabs. But at the same time, look at me, I'm retreating on your team, I have low health, let me pass you, stab you in the back. Sorry, I lied. I was a spy all the time. Now, when it comes down to it, what stab would you declare to be the easiest trick stab to learn? Optimus?
I honestly, the first trick stab I ever did was the stare stab. Now, because I've seen like people like Hay and Stabby, I've seen them do it, and I just wanted to try myself, and it actually worked one day. But after that, I would fail so many times, so I have to practice like on walkway or something. But the easiest I would have to say is probably it's either side stab or face stab, because face stabs are very unorthodox. Like you could get it and not even know how you do it. But if side stab, it depends on the enemy, because if the enemy holds W and just keeps continue to walk and just turns their mouse as little, you get a side stab on that. Like it all depends on your timing and your precision.
Yeah, I've tried practicing face stabs on walkway. It is difficult. It is not easy. What about you, Mr. Paladin?
I'd say for the new spy starting out with its trick stabs, I think I also started with it just a straight up stare stab, but the really, really tacky one where you can see the enemy the whole time, the enemy can see you the whole time, and you're probably standing on a stair because you're thinking, okay, I've got to do a stair stab on a stair. Just because you can see it, it's a real controlled environment. You see where the enemy is, you know where you are, you know you've got a height advantage, and you're practicing just those few things you've got to do to land that knife on his back. And once you get those down, you start doing other things like the blind things, like the corner stab, where you can't actually see the enemy, but you're going to be anticipating where he's going to be. Or you go on to my favorite, the blind stair stab, where you know they're coming behind you. You know you've got the height advantage, so you're just going to do it in the blind, and once you're over their head, you're going to be able to see them.
Yeah. I did my first blind stair stab recently on a pyro. The only reason why I actually pulled it off was because he was holding WM1 trying to chase me up the stairs, so I saw the edge of his flame, so I knew when to jump and how far I'd need to jump back to get that stab. But I was also praying he didn't hit M2 to throw me back up into the air. That's one of the big things when you're doing the blind stabs. You need to know your opponent's speed. That's one of the big things. If you can't measure speed of each of the different classes, you may want to go onto a map and just walk around personally as each of the classes to see the different speeds, or adjust the bots on walkway to see how they walk. Now, when it comes to trick stabs, there's the matador, the corner, reverse corner, stair, drop, under or foot stab, and then side stabs. Now, when it comes to dropping and stair stabs, there's one key element that I always seem to do, but not a lot of new people seem to do it, and that's holding your crouch button. Now, I know it's supposed to bring them closer to you, but has it been fully proven?
The crouch is very important. If you don't crouch, the registration knife won't see it. Like, if you stand on top of someone's head and you look down, you won't see like the knife go up. But as soon as you crouch, you're gonna see that, okay, you're ready to stab. It's gonna kill him. So the crouch is very important. If you don't crouch, I don't think it's gonna work.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to notice. Go ahead and get with a buddy and actually stand on his head, and you'll notice when you're standing, you won't be able to register the hit, but if you crouch, you will. The reason people get their trick stabs without crouching is if they're fully gone behind the enemy, and they're actually falling down behind them, and that's when their hit will register. But if you want a larger window to hit the enemy in, you've got to crouch.
Yeah. And then when standing on their head, it's a high risk once you stab if you've got low health, because you'll kill yourself too. It does this weird fall damage. I don't know why. It's just strange, but it happens. So if you stand on someone's head and stab them, and you've got low health, it's probably not the sentry that kills you, it's the fall damage.
I feel after you stab on someone's head, you have to let go of control right away, and that stops the fall damage. Because if you continue holding control, and then even after the person dies, you're gonna receive that fall damage. So it's a experience thing. Like, after you stab, you just let go of control.
Yeah.
And you don't receive the fall damage after that.
Yeah, I'm still used to holding down crouch still, but that's just me personally. I need to get that out of my muscle memory. And there goes a truck.
Sorry about that. That's a motorcycle.
It's something. It's not a big deal. And now with drop stabs, usually I find it's easiest when I can see my target coming along and then time my drop down to them. Now, I know it's also possible to do it blind, but that's usually pure luck if you don't know a target's there. Now, timing-wise, would you say it's easier to time a drop stab or a stair stab?
I can get the drops easier.
Probably drop, because for a stair stab, if the person can see you and they've experienced getting stabbed on a stair, they're not going to fall for it probably like after 50 times they get stabbed. But for a drop stab, if they don't see you, like you're coming from above, it's going to be easier to time it because they're just going to keep walking. Unless, they're like grabbing a drink and then they stop moving for some reason. But that rarely ever happens. So I would say drop stab. Like I agree with Mr. Paladin.
Yeah, overall drop stab would be easier because
Yeah, and if you want a good in-game or public place to try that, there's on Thunder Mountain right before the first capture. There's a huge ramp that they've got to walk up, and if you're at the top of it, you're often outside of their field of view, so you can see them coming right from where they leave the spawn to where you can drop down on them.
Yeah, I know I've practiced on there a few times. Sometimes you do have to take that little leap of faith to be able to get further down the ramp to behind them, but you can sometimes just walk off and you have them. It is a nice place that he's talking about. It's the first map of Thunder Mountain, first capture point. It is a payload map, so everyone's going to surround that cart, even though the cap is ×3. And with Matadors are a corner stab without the corner. These seem to be a little bit more difficult, but I've been practicing on walkway with having pyros only and having them pull M1 down. So I've gotten used to, I've been hit by flame, I can kill the pyro and get away with my dead ringer. What I found though is it's easier to kill them with their right hand than it is their left shoulder. Have either of you experienced that? It's easier to go one direction than the other?
Yeah, I did a video once where I had someone stand still as I circled them with a spy, and their right hand seems to give you more code to work with than their left.
I feel it's also because for TF2, the only way you can see the weapon is from your right point of view. It's the same as a rocket launcher. Like the rocket launcher is on the right side, so it would come from the right side of your point of view. But the rocket also comes out of the right side of the rocket as well, as opposed to original. It comes out of the middle.
Yeah.
So the right shoulder of the pyro would be easier to stab. Number one, because it's coming out of their right and your left. So,
yeah.
hold on.
Now, I've actually experimented with this, and I found spies are easier to stab on the left side than they are the right side. I don't know what's with it, though, because he holds his gun in his right hand, but for some reason it takes longer to get a Matador on his right side than it does on his left side. Now, I'm not sure if it's the model that's causing it, like changes the hitbox that way, but for some reason it's the left side seems easier on Spy, but every other class seems to be the right hand side.
You have to play around with that offline sometime and turn on the hitboxes and see what the code is doing. Oh, and if people don't know what we're talking about with hitboxes, just go ahead and look up some YouTubes about Team Fortress 2 hitboxes. Once you see those hitboxes drawn, it'll help you understand a huge amount of how hit registration is actually coded into the game.
Yeah, like the Heavy's head hitbox is really big, but that Scout's is actually really small, like he says. I've got a small head.
Mm-hmm.
So he literally tells what his hitbox is. And also comes to the model. The model is what the character is too. So hitbox to model is not always what you'll see and what the server registers. And that's a big part about Spy is ping and lag. What I find is when a Spy is really laggy and it's Spy v Spy, usually the laggy Spy ends up winning from a face stab or... Like I've tried this a few times, I don't have footage of it, but I'm backstabbing a Spy and I see his model in front of me swing his knife and apparently I'm the one who is in front of him. I don't know if either of you have experienced that before, but that's what I find.
Yeah, I find a sweet spot, just a touch of under 100 ping is when I tend to pull off more of the trick stabs than usual. Even though I look for servers where I'm a nice low ping, it has to actually drift up to just under 100 before I start doing them really well.
What about you, Optimus? Anything like that?
Lag and ping definitely have a difference between like if the person you're stabbing has a higher ping or you have a higher ping. There's definitely going to be a difference because in their point of view, even though they're looking straight at you, if you're playing on your computer and looking at your point of view, it could be a whole different thing. Like they could be looking to the right or to the left. And actually, Stabby made a video about that on his Twitch podcast about the lag compensation,
Yeah,
and it's really interesting. Actually, I
yeah,
actually never seen it before until I saw that.
yeah, because he puts in his point of view, the heavy's point of view, and then he
Yes.
does what the server views too.
Yeah, the source TV.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I'll put a link to that video in the description below, so you'll see what we're talking about. That there is a lag compensation plus a ping value. I may find some footage of me getting stabbed from something that wasn't even there too. There'll be something in the video. Now, overall, trick stabs are what I find the last resort.
Why? Yep.
Yeah, trick stabs are last resort, like Stabby says, when it comes to UGC. In pubs, though, people seem to abuse them. Now, is it because people are too new to understand it, or just because in UGC they can't get away with it, but they still want to practice it, so they go into pubs and pub stomp that way? Any views on it?
Well, in pubs, you have more distraction and there's more people, so and there's no communication, so there's not going to be like someone's calling out. There's a spy that's going to be coming up the stairs for like the Badwater of roof, as opposed to like UGC. If there's someone saying, "Okay, there's a spy up there," and people in UGC are actually more aware of it because it's obviously competitive, so they know what's going on when a spy comes along, so they won't fall for it as easily. But if you're the spy and you have to trick stab as a last resort, the only way, like when we mean by last resort, it usually means when a pyro is right next to you and you have no choice, you don't have time to pull out your gun, you just go for that praying stab that it would register, and then sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It depends on the pyro and your timing.
Yeah, I
Paladin?
agree. In public servers, you're going to get more of those one-on-one situations because the person who's identified you isn't calling out to his team. The teammates probably don't hear the ruckus going on behind them because they're too busy doing their own thing. So you're in a 1 versus 1 with whoever's got your attention. And if they see you take off, I don't know, there's something inside everyone who plays on public servers that they want to kill someone or they want to kill a spy once they've seen a spy. So you can play on that fact that they are going to chase you down and they're going to try and kill you with whatever weapon that they can. Oftentimes, for some reason, people want to switch to their melee weapon and come after you, and that just plays into your hands. You know where they're going, you know they only have a short-range weapon. Sure, go for a trick stab.
Yeah. Now, I know some of the Demo Man's weapons are a lot longer than they look, like the Eyelander and the Skull Cutter. I've been on the wrong end of them, but I've still got a Matador off on them after being hit once. It's not fun for that. But then comes in the Medic's Uber Saw. That model doesn't seem to match the hitbox on it. Now, I know you play Medic, Mr. Paladin, so do you know anything more about the Uber Saw?
I don't know if it's extra reach, but I find that medics learn how to use it better than other players learn how to use it. There is a slower swing on the Uber Saw, so a lot of medics will kind of go forward until that swing, and then after the swing, they'll back the heck off. And that plays right to their advantage. If you're on their screen and they're wanting to backtrack instead of keep coming at you, then that's going to ruin a lot of your trick stabs.
Yeah. Now, I find if a medic's chasing me, I'll just shoot him because he deserves it. He's chasing me. And
Yeah.
spy death to killing off that medic is always worth it because you killed the medic. They've got no heals.
Or sometimes because you run backwards slower than they're running forward, I'll often just try and get them out of position. If they want to try and chase after me with their melee weapon, I'll lead them to teammates. I don't have to be the one who gets the kill.
Yeah, just you be the distraction and bait for them. And I find that with a lot of new players too. They will follow you into a sentry's line of sight, they'll follow you into a heavy, they'll follow you to a pyro, they'll follow you to anything that can kill them.
Absolutely, and you're seeing a lot of my videos. I'll be like leading someone away, and then I'm like, "Where is my team? I'm sure I left my team around here somewhere. I'm trying to fall back to them, but they're gone."
Yeah, and usually you can't always help that because they may have been taken down by a Crits Creek demo.
Or that's when I'm checking the scoreboard looking for you.
Yeah. If you're the one destroying my team, I'm going after you.
Indeed.
Now, I forget whose video it was. There was a soldier destroying someone's team, and then I think it may have been Stabby. He fakes the soldier out by having him hit the dead ringer, deactivates immediately, the soldier jumps to him, and while the soldier's in midair and about to land, he turns the side and gets a nice side stab on him and takes care of him. I think it may have been Stabby.
Yeah, I had a video with an understab, but I didn't have my dead ringer triggered, so I don't think it was mine.
Like, there's so many spies I watch. Sack the Flintstone, Optimus Prime, Mr.Paladin, TF2 Slurgy, Stabby. There's so many spies out there. You can learn something from each of them. And it's not always how to play spy exactly.
That's because I find a lot of the spy videos are also more entertaining. I mean, sure, you can get a lot of frag videos with the with just about any class, but no one really wants to see an engineer's sentry gun getting a lot of kills because it beeps, it shoots, it kills things. But the spy videos, it takes a bit of finesse. The map that you're playing on has a factor into it, the weapon, and then the enemy team that you're playing against all plays into what happens in the spy videos. So they're very entertaining to watch.
Yeah. Now, I remember you talking to me before. You had a lot of complaints on one of your videos saying, oh, they were too new, they didn't know what was going on. And then you made a second video showing the Steam community against you. And you had a lot of problems coming from Spec and a lot of the other players who know how you play. And that's what I find that some of the spy YouTubers get is, oh, you're playing on a Valve server. Well, if you want a nice stab video, that's what you're gonna get. But if you want a reality, my last podcast, the video footage showed my deaths and everything. It's not an easy life being a spy.
Yeah, it's definitely different. Like, I stay away from Valve servers, usually because it has players that are just way too new, and in fact that becomes detrimental to you as a spy because they're so unpredictable that you can't plan anything. I mean, sure, you'll probably get a lot of kills, but you'll die in such weird and unusual ways just because the enemy doesn't play into it. So, yeah, I usually don't jump on Valve servers. I have some regular low ping servers, but like you're saying, when people commented on that video, I was like, hey, I don't get to choose my enemy. All you can do as a spy is learn what your enemy will let you get away with and then exploit the heck out of it until they stop letting you do it. With my Steam community group, I couldn't do the same things that I could in the other video, but I did other things. You know, I adjusted my gameplay based on what the enemy was going to let me get away with.
Yeah. Hey, you had any videos like that, Optimus?
Regarding about like Valve servers and Lotus servers,
with people complaining about your enemy's skill level and that.
I'm sure I've gotten a few, but the way I respond to those is, okay, you come here to learn like the spies' tactics and their arsenals, and the only way to learn that is to actually see how it's done. So even if it's done on a noob, you saw how it was done, so you can try and copy that. Obviously, on a better player, they're going to know how to counter that, but at least you know how it's done, so I don't really see how they're complaining.
Yeah, like, we try our best to make what we can to entertain you, and it's not easy being a spy. Why? We know it. We've played it, we've all been there, we've died to pyros many times, and we've learned to fight them. We've done our best to actually learn what the spy can do. And
it comes back to that old cliched advice. It's like, oh, how are you so good? Oh, from experience. Well, how do you get experience? From dying a lot. And why do you die a lot? Oh, because of bad experiences. We've got so many bad experiences underneath our belt that we just learn how not to die so often.
Yeah, and the Dead Ringer helps a bit on that, but it doesn't always save us.
Oh yeah.
People definitely know how to counter it today, as opposed to when it just came out. Because when it just came out, when you die as a spy, and then people didn't even know what the Dead Ringer was, and then you come back alive. Because I'm sure back then they didn't know what the Dead Ringer sound was. They probably thought it was like a rocket or something, and then they die after they just killed you, and they go like, "What the hell?"
Yeah,
Actually, I have a funny story about that. Remember how I said I used to play from Quake World?
Yep.
The first time I ever encountered a Dead Ringer, I thought I was dealing with a hacker because I had not experienced that where I had killed a player and then the player somehow come back and kill me again. So after seeing that, I was like really curious as to how in the world that happened. Am I dealing with a hacker? So I quickly went in the spectate and I just saw what he did. And then once I saw the item, it was like, oh, that explains a lot.
Yeah, now I've encountered quite a few hackers recently that seem to like to hunt cloak and dagger spies from a distance. Now, I believe that both of you should know that if you believe there's a hacker, cloak and dagger will pull them out. If not, I suggest trying it.
A
Not only
hacking
Cloak and
spy
Dagger.
using Cloak and Dagger?
No. Someone who likes to hack is able to find the cloak and dagger spy.
Yeah, they're able to see under a full Dead Ringer cloak as well. And around public games, I can see it happen. What they will do is they'll flick to you and shoot you even though you're under a disguise, and then you'll see them flick around and shoot at someone else. And then before you've dropped your full cloak, they're already shooting back on you.
Yeah.
And that's when I instantly take a really close look at that person and say, okay, are they hacking, or did they see something genuine? Did they see me changing a disguise and still see my smoke or something like that? There are ways to see people when they're under a cloak, but if you see them being consistent with them, or you see them spinning 180, or you see them doing a huge amount of criticals, yeah, there's a good chance they're hacking.
Yeah. Now, what I've learned is Cloak and Dagger Spy against an aimbotting sniper, they'll look dead at you even though you're not being bumped or anything. You could be the other half of the map near your team and they're just looking dead at you, a pointer on your forehead, and it's like, how are you seeing me right now? Like, the last hacker I came into was playing aimbot heavy. He didn't have criticals or that, he was just using aimbot. And he was setting off my Dead Ringer so much and following me through that cloak and just shooting at me. I'm like, there's no way I'm not covered with milk, I'm not bleeding, don't have Girardi, not on fire. There's something going on with this guy because I didn't even hit a disguise button yet. I'm still in cloak. So I had a few buddies of mine use Dead Ringers as well, go in and see, and they agreed something was wrong. So we had someone spectate him. Well, I went in again for another stab, and sure enough, he was hacking, and they had the admin, they frapsed it, sent it to the admin of the server, they banned the guy immediately. And that's the thing, you don't win if you're a hacker. If you're a hacker, you're proving you have no skill, you're proving that you rather cheat to win, and you're proving that you don't genuinely want to play this game, you're just here to make people upset. And at that time, you're not making me upset. I'm just planning my way to get even with you by frapsing you, getting your Steam ID, sending it to Valve. I hope you didn't like any of your items or games you had on your account. And I've dealt with them before on Ace Fortress server when I was admin there. I've dealt with them when I was on Mr.Paladin servers as an admin. They do come up, and you need to know what to deal with them.
Yeah, I don't even like the term hacker for them because it's almost too glorious a word. All they're doing is they're exploiting some loopholes in the code, and I've always told people the analogy is more like you're playing chess with someone, but the person you're playing chess against, instead of having bishops and knights, has extra queens. Now, you could play a game and you might, on a slim chance, beat them, but against anyone with any kind of understanding of how chess works, you're going to get thrashed. So, like you're saying, the only reason I can see that they have any entertainment value in doing this is because they like to make other people angry or they like to make other people upset. They're pushing for that reaction. So usually if I see that happen, I don't give them a reaction. I just go click, 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 look up Steam ID, pass it to the relative parties and just say, hey, we're done here. If I can get them off the server, I'll get them off the server. If not, I'll leave and find a different server. It's not worth wasting time.
Yeah. And then you got these heavies who put on the crits, movement speed, aimbot, and then they put on the noisemakers, and it really annoys me from the noise. Not that they're hacking, but just the noise in general. And I've got a video recorded of one doing it and how to report them, find their Steam ID and all that. You can look in my channel and go back and you will find it. You'll be able to report them and spot them out. They're pretty easy after a bit. You'll be able to pick out a hacker or a cheater from whatever. Now, last night my friend was playing 9v9 Scram and the other team used a ghosting player and they cheated that way. Now, Optimus Prime should know what goes on with the rules of ghosting come UGC.
The entire team gets VAC banned, and they can't, and they're banned from UGC forever. I've never encountered a ghosting thing before, so yeah. I don't know.
It is a form of cheating where you've got one person who is telling your team what your opponent is, where they are, where they're hidden, where they're cloaked, all that. Even what their Uber charge is. So it's a pretty big exploitation of the game in general.
Well, it's pretty easy to counter that. You just have to make the server 18 slots only so that that extra person can't come in.
Yeah. But at the same time, Team Fortress TV, they can watch through that and be on Mumble.
Mm-hmm. Well, if it's streamed on Team Fortress TV, they would usually have like a 5-minute delay, so ghosting can't happen. Like in Community versus Pros, I'm sure they had a 5-minute delay, so we couldn't know. Like if someone was ghosting for us, we couldn't know where the pros were, and if someone was ghosting for the pros, they couldn't tell us what we were doing.
Yeah, so the TV has an anti-ghosting way to it. It's just that spectator mode just makes it so easy to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And for events like that, they probably won't even give the STV out because DDoS and all that good stuff.
Sal and Fat Mom. Yeah. All the TF2 casters from EXTV and that. And they're very fun to watch. I like watching them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when it comes down to it, we're coming pretty close to the end of our podcast here. I'm going to ask, what loadout would you consider to be the worst and best, and what experiences you have doing so? And we'll start with Mr. Paladin.
The worst spy loadout, you're talking?
Yeah.
And the best spy loadout? Okay. I think the worst spy loadout is a Your Eternal Reward with a cloak and dagger in a public server, and I don't really care what revolver you use in that situation. The trouble with that loadout is it slows you down. I find that people are looking to get that stab so they have that disguise so they can do other stuff and be out of the cloak, but they end up sitting in cloak so often that if I was using another watch, I could have attempted what they attempted 3 times before they attempted it the first time. So I find because of that time factor, that's probably the worst loadout. Now, that's not to say that there aren't people who are effective with it, but in general public games, what I'll be doing as a spy and I die in an attempt, and I'll go into spectate and I just see someone sitting there with the cloak and dagger, Your Eternal Reward, and I'm just watching all the time while I'm waiting to spawn, and they're just sitting there. Now, the best, and I'm talking from a public game standpoint, is an ambassador, default knife, and dead ringer. The dead ringer in a public setting lets you get away with so much, allows you to be a presence, lets you move in hostile areas and very spam-filled corridors where I'm hoping in other games there isn't quite so much spam because people are really conscious of their ammo count and what they can do in between firing. But yeah, the dead ringer just lets you get away with so much in public games to the point where some people talk about my videos that I'm using dead ringer too much and that I don't have enough experience with the other watches. And I try and mix it up, but it's true, it's just a better watch and a better loadout.
Yep. What about you, Optimus? Best and worst loadout?
I'll start with best. I have to agree with Mr. Paladin on the pubs. The Dead Ringer is the most favored, but I like all three, actually. I'm starting to use Invis Washboard in pubs now because I would have to practice to dodge things. Because if I dodge things really well in pubs, I'm going to dodge it in 9v9. I would not use the Cloak and Dagger in pubs, though. I would use the Cloak and Dagger only in comp on defense because of the callouts and stuff. And, well, for the best loadout, Revolver or Ambassador, both are very good pistols. And for the knife, I would go for the default knife. And it varies between pubs and competitive. For pubs, I would go with Dead Ringer. For competitive, I would go with Invis Watch. And for the worst loadout, I would have to say it would either be between Your Eternal Reward or the Big Earner. I used the Big Earner twice, I think. I even have a strange one. I never really leveled it up, but I've only used it twice. And for the pistol on the worst loadout, I would have to say either between Latron J or probably Latron J, unless you're using the Big Earner with the Latron J, because you can...
Big Ringer.
Yeah, basically. Along with the Dead Ringer. The Latron J is really good. Either that or the Latron J with a Familiar Fest set. So, I don't know. For loadouts, I would tend to stick with Ambassador Knife and Invis Watch, sometimes Dead Ringer. So, yeah.
Yeah, I find that I'm pretty attached to the Ambassador.
There's just so many weapons for Spy now because I don't really remember the last weapon they released for. I think it was the Enforcer, or it was the Big Earner.
It was one of they came in the same set. The
Might have been the Diamondback from...
oh, yes, the
Diamondback.
Diamondback. Yes, the Diamondback is very good for if you're playing on competitive. The King of the Hill maps are really good because
mini sentries.
The mini sentries will be used almost all the time, and you will get those crits. Really, like you'll stack up on the crits as long as you don't die, of course.
Yeah, and same goes with the Frontier Justice.
The only thing I don't like about it is you'll get a bunch of crits stored up, but it usually takes a little over that 102 to actually kill someone off. So your second critical is kind of a waste.
Yeah, you would usually save up that crit shot if you see their HP is low. Like, you can see their HP as Spy because, well, you can see it, but I would never go for it unless it's a medic. I would like lower the medic down, or if it's like a key target, like a sniper on Viaduct, which is very annoying. I would just shoot.
A sniper, a medic, something that's worth throwing that extra crit away for.
Yeah.
I know I've used crits just to take down a heavy. Why? He was threatening the team, and it was worth killing him for it.
Yeah.
Don't forget its value in a no crit server as well.
Oh yes, no crit servers. Those forced crits become your best friend. Just like a Flog Pyro or a Frontier Justice NG or a Crits Krieg Medic. The best no crit server weapon is a Crits Krieg. That's from my top 10 list.
Crits
go and
demo
watch.
is really dangerous.
Yeah, crits demo followed by crits heavy, crits soldier.
We used the crits medic and 2 buff banner soldiers, and we all just played off each other, and the damage was so high.
Yeah, that was a fun match. But the time's coming to an end here. I'd like to thank both Mr. Paladin and Awptimus for being here today and giving us insight on the spy class. Thank you, Mr. Paladin. Thank you, Optimus.
Welcome.
It was very nice having you here today. I may have you back for a future episode. I don't know. I may end up doing another collab with Mr. Paladin, or I might end up doing a first collab with Optimus sometime. You never know.
Oh, well, your people can talk to my people, and we'll do lunch or something.
Yeah, we'll do lunch. We'll talk lawyers. So thank you all. Tune in next month. I believe next month we're going to be talking about trading or UGC in general. So thank you for tuning in.